The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my Ford struggling to keep up. I'm Alaric, 46, an IT specialist, and I live in Seattle. The city's perpetual dampness usually didn't bother me, but tonight it mirrored the chill that had settled deep in my bones. I'd been feeling uneasy for weeks, a gnawing suspicion that I couldn't quite shake. My wife, Bronte, had been distant. We'd been married for 18 years, a solid, loving partnership built on trust and mutual respect. Or so I thought. Lately, her phone had become an extension of her hand, always face down, always password protected. She'd started working late more often, claiming urgent projects at the architecture firm where she was a senior designer. Her explanations were vague, her eyes darting away when I pressed for details. Just deadlines, Alaric, she'd say, her voice a little too high-pitched, a little too quick. I pulled into the driveway, the headlights cutting through the gloom. The house was dark, which wasn't unusual. Bronte often worked until late, and I usually ate a quick dinner at my computer before heading to bed. But tonight the darkness felt different, heavier. As I unlocked the front door, a wave of exhaustion washed over me. I kicked off my shoes and padded into the kitchen, flipping on the light. The room was spotless, as always. Bronte was meticulous about keeping the house tidy. I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and took a long swig, trying to soothe the knot in my stomach. "Bronte." I called out, my voice echoing in the silence. No answer. I checked her home office, but it was empty. Her car was in the garage, so she had to be somewhere. Maybe she'd gone for a walk, but in this rain, unlikely. I pulled out my phone and hesitated for a moment before dialing her number. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. "Hey, it's Alaric. Give me a call when you get this." I hung up, a sense of foreboding creeping into my heart. I decided to check our bedroom. As I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed a faint light emanating from under the door. That was odd. Bronte always turned off the lights before leaving a room. I pushed the door open slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. The scene that unfolded before me shattered my world. Bronte was in our bed, tangled in the sheets with a man I'd never seen before. He was younger, with a chiseled jaw and arrogant eyes. They were both naked, their bodies slick with sweat. The air was thick with the cloying scent of cheap perfume and raw lust. Time seemed to stop. My mind struggled to process what I was seeing. It couldn't be real. This wasn't my life. This wasn't my Bronte, but it was. The evidence was right there, seared into my memory. Bronte gasped, her eyes widening in horror. "Alaric. What are you doing here?" she stammered, pulling the sheets up to cover herself. The man beside her smirked, a look of brazen defiance on his face. "What am I doing here?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. "This is my house. This is my bed. What the hell are you doing?" "It's not what you think," Bronte said, her voice trembling. "It just happened. It was a mistake. A mistake." I roared, my anger finally breaking through the shock. "You're in my bed, naked with another man, and you're telling me it's a mistake." The man, emboldened by Bronte's presence, sat up in the bed. "Look, buddy," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Things happen. No need to get all worked up about it." I lunged at him, fueled by a rage I'd never known I possessed. I grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the headboard. He gasped for air, his eyes wide with fear. Bronte screamed, trying to pull me off him. "Alaric, stop it. You're going to hurt him," she cried. "Hurt him?" What about the hurt she had inflicted on me? The years of trust, the shared dreams, the unwavering love, all shattered in an instant. I released the man, who scrambled out of bed and stumbled around the room looking for his clothes. "Get out," I said, my voice cold and hard. "Get out of my house and never come back." The man didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed his clothes and fled, leaving Bronte and me alone in the wreckage of our marriage. I turned to Bronte, my eyes filled with a pain so deep it felt like a physical wound. "How could you do this?" I asked, my voice cracking. "How could you betray me like this?" She burst into tears, her body shaking with sobs. "I don't know," she wailed. "I am so sorry, Alaric. It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. You didn't mean for it to go this far." I repeated, my voice laced with sarcasm. "You were naked in our bed with another man. How much further did you think it could go?" She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders heaving. "I've been unhappy," she sobbed. "I haven't been feeling like myself lately. I felt like we were growing apart, I said, my voice rising again. "We've been busy, Bronte. We both have demanding careers, but we always made time for each other. We always talked. I thought we were happy. I don't know if I've ever been truly happy, she said, her voice muffled by her hands. I felt like I was missing something. Like there was something more out there for me. Her words were like a knife twisting in my gut. All those years, all that love, and she had been harboring this secret dissatisfaction. I felt like I didn't even know her anymore. Who was he? I asked, my voice barely audible. His name is Cashin, she said. He's a junior architect at my firm, so this has been going on for a while. I asked, my voice laced with bitterness. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. A few weeks, she admitted. It started as just flirting, but then it escalated. A few weeks. That was all it took to destroy everything we had built together. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't breathe. I needed to get out of there. I'm leaving, I said, turning to walk out of the room. Where are you going? She asked, her voice filled with panic. I don't know, I said. But I can't stay here. Not with you. I walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and out of the house, leaving Bronte sobbing in our bed. The rain was still coming down, washing away the last vestiges of the life I thought I knew. I drove aimlessly for hours, the city lights blurring through the rain-streaked windshield. I had no destination in mind, no plan for the future. All I knew was that my life had been irrevocably changed. I had been betrayed by the person I loved most in the world, and I had no idea how to pick up the pieces. Eventually, I found myself parked on a deserted overlook, gazing out at the twinkling lights of the city. The rain had stopped, and a sliver of moon peeked out from behind the clouds. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. I couldn't stay in Seattle. Every street, every building, every memory would be tainted by Bronte's betrayal. I needed to start over, to build a new life for myself, far away from the pain and heartbreak she had caused. The next morning, I went to a lawyer and filed for divorce. I told her I wanted nothing from Bronte, no alimony, no shared assets. All I wanted was to be free of her, to erase her from my life. I packed up my belongings, sold the house, and put in my notice at work. I didn't tell Bronte where I was going. I didn't want her to know. I just wanted to disappear. I ended up in Asheville, North Carolina, a small mountain town nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I bought a small cabin on the outskirts of town, surrounded by forests and hiking trails. I found a new job as a freelance IT consultant, working remotely and setting my own hours. For the first few months, I was a ghost. I spent my days hiking in the mountains, trying to clear my head and heal my heart. I avoided people, preferring the solitude of the wilderness. But slowly, gradually, I started to emerge from the darkness. I joined a hiking club and met other people who shared my love of the outdoors. I started taking pottery classes at a local art center. I even started dating again, tentatively, cautiously. It wasn't easy. The pain of Bronte's betrayal lingered, a dull ache in my heart, but I refused to let it define me. I refused to let it destroy me. I was determined to rebuild my life, to find happiness again, even after everything that had happened. One day, about a year after I moved to Asheville, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Bronte. I hesitated for a long time before opening it. I didn't want to reopen old wounds, to relive the pain of her betrayal. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was long and rambling, filled with apologies and regrets. Bronte said that she had made a terrible mistake, that she had ruined the best thing that had ever happened to her. She said that she had broken up with Cashin shortly after I left, realizing that he was nothing more than a fleeting infatuation. She said that she missed me terribly, that she thought about me every day. She asked if there was any chance of reconciliation, any way for us to get back together. I read the letter through, my heart pounding in my chest. For a moment I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could work things out. Maybe we could rebuild our marriage stronger than before. But then I remembered the image of Bronte in our bed with Cashin, the look of betrayal in her eyes. I remembered the pain, the anger, the devastation. And I knew that I could never trust her again. I could never forget what she had done. I wrote a short, simple reply. Bronte, I wrote, I appreciate your apology, but I can't forgive you, I can't forget. I wish you well. I sealed the letter, put it in the mail, and walked away. I knew that it was the right decision, even though it hurt. I deserved better than to live with the constant fear of betrayal. I deserved to be with someone who loved me unconditionally, someone who would never dream of hurting me the way Bronte had. I continued to build my new life in Asheville, surrounded by friends, immersed in my hobbies and open to new possibilities. I found happiness again, not the same kind of happiness I had shared with Bronte, but a different, deeper, more resilient kind of happiness. A happiness that was built on self-respect, self-reliance, and the unwavering belief in my own worth. One evening, as I was sitting on the porch of my cabin, watching the sunset over the mountains, I received a phone call. It was from a mutual friend of Bronte and mine, a woman named Rowena who lived back in Seattle. Alaric, Rowena said, her voice filled with concern. I have some news about Bronte. I thought you should know. My heart sank. I knew that whatever Rowena was about to tell me, it wasn't going to be good. Bronte has been diagnosed with a serious illness, Rowena said. It's not good. The doctors don't think she has much time left. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. Despite everything that had happened, despite the pain and betrayal, I still cared about Bronte. She had been a part of my life for so long. The thought of her suffering, of her dying, filled me with a deep sadness. What is it? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It's a rare form of cancer, Rowena said. It's very aggressive. They caught it too late. I was silent for a moment, trying to process the news. Is she in a lot of pain? I asked. Yes, Rowena said. She's in hospice care now. She's not doing well. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to reach out to Bronte to offer her comfort and support, but I also knew that it would be incredibly painful for both of us. I didn't want to reopen old wounds, to relive the past. She's been asking about you, Rowena said. She wants to see you. She wants to apologize, to say goodbye. I hesitated. I don't know, Rowena, I said. It would be so hard, I know, Rowena said, but I think it would mean a lot to her, and maybe it would help you too, to find some closure. I thought about it for a long time. I weighed the pros and cons, the pain and the potential healing. Finally, I made a decision. Okay, I said. I'll go see her. I booked a flight to Seattle for the next day. I spent the night tossing and turning, unable to sleep. I was filled with a mixture of dread and anticipation. I didn't know what to expect, how I would react when I saw Bronte again. The next morning, I arrived in Seattle and drove straight to the hospice center. I took a deep breath before walking through the doors, steeling myself for what lay ahead. Rowena was waiting for me in the lobby. She gave me a hug and led me down a long, quiet hallway to Bronte's room. She's very weak, Rowena whispered. Don't be shocked by how she looks. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. Rowena opened the door and stepped aside, allowing me to enter. Bronte was lying in the bed, her body frail and wasted. Her skin was pale and translucent, her eyes sunken and shadowed. She looked like a ghost of her former self. She saw me and a faint smile flickered across her lips. Alaric, she whispered. You came. I walked over to the bed and took her hand. Her skin was cold and dry. I sat down in the chair beside her, my eyes filled with tears. How are you feeling? I asked, my voice choked with emotion. I'm tired, she said. But I am glad you're here. We sat in silence for a few moments, just looking at each other. It felt like a lifetime had passed since we had last seen each other. I'm so sorry, Alaric, she said, her voice barely audible, for everything, for hurting you, for betraying you. I was so stupid. I ruined everything. I know, I said. It's okay. I've forgiven you. She looked at me, her eyes filled with disbelief. Really? She asked. Yes, I said. It took me a long time, but I've finally forgiven you. I don't want to carry that anger and resentment around anymore. It's too heavy. She squeezed my hand, her eyes filling with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for being so kind. I don't deserve it. We talked for a long time about the past, about the present, about the future. We shared memories, we laughed, we cried. It was a painful but cathartic experience. Before I left, I leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. Goodbye, Bronte, I said. I'll always remember the good times we had together. Goodbye, Alaric, she said. I'll always love you. I walked out of the room, my heart filled with a mixture of sadness and peace. I knew that I had done the right thing, that I had found some closure, some healing. Bronte passed away a few days later. I attended her funeral in Seattle, surrounded by her family and friends. It was a sad and somber occasion, but it was also a celebration of her life. After the funeral, I returned to Asheville, to my cabin in the mountains, to my new life. I continued to hike, to create pottery, to spend time with my friends. I even started a new relationship with a wonderful woman named Isolde, who loved me for who I was and who never betrayed my trust. I never forgot Bronte, but I didn't let her define me. I learned from my past, I grew from my experiences, and I moved forward with my life, stronger and wiser than before. And so I found peace, not in forgetting but in forgiving, not in erasing the past but in embracing the future, not in seeking revenge but in finding my own happiness, my own path, my own way to heal and to live again. Life is fragile, and love can be both beautiful and devastating. But even in the face of betrayal and heartbreak, it is possible to find hope, to find healing, and to find a new beginning.